This is SARS-CoV-2. It belongs to the family of coronaviruses named for the crown-like spikes on their surfaces. SARS-CoV-2 can cause COVID-19, a contagious viral infection that attacks primarily your throat and lungs, causes your body to develop pneumonia. When an infected person talks, coughs, or sneezes, droplets carrying the virus may land in your mouth or nose and then move into your lungs. Once inside your body, the virus comes in contact with cells in your throat, nose, or lungs. How can you develop pneumonia symptoms? For this, we'll have to look into your lungs. Normally, as you breathe, air moves freely through your trachea or windpipe, then through large tubes called bronchi, through smaller tubes called bronchioles, and finally into tiny sacs called alveoli. Your airways and alveoli are flexible and springy. When you breathe in, each air sac inflates like a small balloon. And when you exhale, the sacs deflate. Small blood vessels called capillaries surround your alveoli. Oxygen from the air you breathe passes into your capillaries, and then carbon dioxide from your body passes out of your capillaries into your alveoli so that your lungs can get rid of it when you exhale. Normally, cells of your immune system attack viruses and germs that make it past your mucus and cilia and enter your alveoli. However, if your immune system is weakened, like in the case of a coronavirus infection, the virus can overwhelm your immune cells and your bronchioles and alveoli become inflamed as your immune system attacks the multiplying viruses. The inflammation can cause your alveoli to fill with fluid, making it difficult for your body to get the oxygen it needs.
To protect yourself against coronavirus, remember that you should follow all the preventive measures. Wash your hands with soap and warm water for 20 seconds, before eating or drinking or whenever you've been out in public. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth without washing your hands so that you don't infect yourself in case you touched any surface that contains the virus. You should keep yourself away from other people, especially those who are sick, as you might not know who might be hosting the virus. If you are sneezing or coughing, which are the common symptoms of respiratory infections of coronavirus, get yourself checked with the doctor. Currently, there is no evidence that people can transmit coronavirus during the incubation period before they show symptoms. Clean your doorknobs, kitchen counters, tables, toilets, phones, keyboards, and bathroom fixtures daily to protect yourself against any sources of coronavirus. Avoid travel to areas with high rates of infection. Stay at home as long as it is necessary to prevent yourself and your family from any risky situation.
The coronavirus, after entering into our nasal cavity, it will be hidden behind the sinus of our nose for the first 2 days initially. So, we can prevent the coronavirus by taking steam daily. Most of the countries like Japan, China, Taiwan, etc. have controlled the coronavirus by steaming. Experts say that using eucalyptus oil while steaming usually works, as the coronavirus can be killed in our nasal cavity itself. Jai Hind, dear children. Today we are going to learn a new chapter, Heredity and Evolution. In this chapter, you have to learn only about the topic heredity, as CBSE has deleted the topic evolution from the syllabus. The topics to be covered in this chapter are introduction, accumulation of variation during reproduction, what is heredity, inherited traits, Mendel's experiment, laws of inheritance, and sex determination. We would have heard the term heredity in our day-to-day life. For example, you say some of your characters like height, style of walking, etc. you got from your father, and maybe eye color, hair texture, skin color, etc. you got from your mother, right? So, we can say that the characters are inherited from parents to offspring or next generations. This is what we call heredity. In the previous lesson, we have learned about the process of reproduction. Why do living organisms reproduce? What is the need or importance of reproduction, and how the process of reproduction takes place. And the reproductive process gives rise to new individuals that are similar in some characters to their parents, or similar in basic characters to that of their parents, but are having some variations in some features such as color, skin color, hair texture, eye color, etc. And we have discussed about the amount of variations produced during asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. And maximum number of variations occurs by sexual reproduction. For example, if we observe a sugarcane field, we can find only little variations among the individuals, and they reproduce asexually. But in other animals and human beings which reproduce sexually have more visible variations among different individuals. So, in this chapter, we can study about how these variations occur in different individuals of the same species and how they are inherited from parents to offspring. Now, we can discuss about the accumulation of variations from one generation to the next generations during reproduction, that is in asexually reproducing organisms and sexually reproducing organisms. We have already discussed that inheritance of characters from parents to the next generation provides the common body design and certain changes. And if we take the case of bacteria which reproduce asexually, the new bacteria divides into two, forming the first generation. And this first generation again divides and forming 4 new individuals, that is the second generation. The 4 new bacteria generated would be very similar. They are having only very minor differences between them due to small inaccuracies in DNA copying. But in case of sexual reproduction, greater diversity or variation will be generated. So, variations that appear in the offspring of one generation are passed on to the next generations and so on. In each generation, they acquire and add some new variations. And these variations increases with generation, and diversity increases over succeeding generations. All the variations are not advantageous to the organisms. If we take the population of a bacteria, and if some bacteria acquire a variation that which can withstand the higher temperature, that variation is advantageous to the bacteria. They can withstand the higher atmospheric temperature and can survive. The children normally resemble their parents, and also their siblings show close resemblances, but they are not identical. Each person have some characters which differs him from the other person. And these differences shown among the individuals of the same species, or the differences in the offsprings from that of their parents, are called as variations. Now, what are responsible for these variations and similarities among the individuals of a same species? We usually say that genes are responsible for the transfer of characters from the parents to offspring and also for the variations. Now, what exactly are these genes? We all know that our body is made up of many cells, and all the cells in our body have nucleus that has chromosomes in it. These chromosomes are made up of DNA molecules, and these small segments of DNA molecules are called as genes, and these genes are responsible for transferring the characters from parents to offsprings, and so they are called as the unit of heredity. What is meant by inheritance? The transferring of genes from one generation to another or from parents to their offsprings is the basis of inheritance. And this inheritance of genes from one generation to the other is called as the heredity. The branch of biology that deals with the study of heredity and variation is called as genetics. What are called traits? Traits are the specific characteristics of an organism which distinguish them from other organisms and can be passed from one generation to the another. For example, hair color and texture, eye color, ear lobes, attached ear lobes and free ear lobes. Height, variation in height, the variation in leaf, shape, size and colors in plants, and the people, those who have different types of skills, are some of the traits that humans show variations. There are two types of traits, inherited traits and acquired traits. The characteristics that are inherited by the offspring from their parents are called as inherited traits. For example, skin color, eye color, height, etc. Acquired traits are those characteristics that appear in the individual temporarily in response to the environmental factors. So, examples, scars on their body, suntanned skin, knowledge, some skills, etc., which cannot be passed on to the offspring of the next generation. The inheritance of these traits in human beings are related to the fact that both the father and the mother contribute equal amounts of genetic material to the child. This means that each trait in the offsprings can be from both the parents, that is from mother DNA and from father's DNA. Thus, for each trait there will be two characters in each child. So, if the child gets both the characters of father and mother, then what character or trait the child will have? And there occurs crossing over of these chromosomes while fertilization, and this leads to the formation of a new character in the offspring. The whole concept of this transfer of characters from parents to offsprings, that is the heredity, has been explained by a scientist called Gregor Johann Mendel, and so he is called as the father of genetics. He was the first to give the scientific explanations for the mechanism of transmission of characters from parents to offspring. Gregor Johann Mendel was educated in a monastery and went to study science and mathematics at the University of Vienna. But he was not good in mathematics and failed to get the teaching certificates. And he came back to monastery and started growing pea plants, garden pea plants. Mendel performed so many experiments in garden pea plants and blended his knowledge of science and mathematics and concluded the laws of inheritance. According to Mendel, each character is controlled by a factor and concluded that these factors are responsible for the transfer of characters from parents to offspring. Later, these factors are named as genes. So children, I hope you all understood the contents that we have discussed today. In the next class, we can continue with the Mendel's experiments in garden peas. All of you read the textbook thoroughly and prepare the notes. Okay, thank you.